Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Crossed Arrows Hunting. And today I wanted to do an episode that I've been wanting to do for a really long time, but it's kind of a big subject, or it can be. You can really get deep into the weeds about this. And this kind of gets me back to why I wanted to start this whole thing, why I wanted to start the podcast, why I wanted to start the YouTube channel. It is because we all used to sit around and talk about hunting, and then I kind of noticed that we were talking about hunting as if we were planning or executing a mission, right? And so I kind of thought that was a different approach to it. And then I kind of had the idea, well, what if I shared this with everybody else and it helped them in their process of planning and executing a hunt? And so that's kind of what I want to do today. And like I said, this is getting me back to why I wanted to start this whole process in the first place. And so today, what I wanted to talk to everyone about is an acronym that we use to assess the variables and their effects on us and them. Us being the hunter, and for this purpose, them being the deer, the elk, whatever it might be that you're hunting. And that acronym is METTTC. Okay. And I'm going to go into each one of these and break them all down, okay? And the acronym stands for mission, enemy, terrain, troops, time, and civil considerations, all right? And I guarantee you're already doing this, okay? But when I break all of this stuff down to you, I think it's going to help you pay closer attention to what you're doing, to your planning process, and help focus those efforts and 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 hopefully save you some time and effort. And that's kind of really, for me, this whole process is what I look to do: efficiency, right? Because I'm sure, like most of you, for myself, time is our biggest commodity that we don't have enough of, right? And again, like I said in the last episode, this hunting thing is kind of a selfish thing that we do, right? We're away from our family. We're out there doing either solo hunts. Maybe you're in a hunting party, but again, you're away from your family, and so that time away from them is those precious moments. But again, if you're if you're like me, this is an obsession now, right? And I have to do this to live. Basically, what it comes down to, and we could go down the rabbit hole on that and how this is affects our mental health. But I think for everyone that I know anyway, for the most part, the hunters that I know and hang out with, we do these things because we enjoy doing hard things, right? And so most of the guys that I know, we're not sitting over a bait pile. We're out there, we're scouting, we're doing all of these things to connect the dots and make that kill. So hopefully, again, when we get into each of these things, it will focus your efforts and make you a more efficient planner and hunter. Okay, so like I said, mission, enemy, terrain, troops, time, and civil considerations. So for the mission, when we give a mission statement, it is given with a task and purpose, and it clearly identifies the action and the reason why. And we give this as 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. Okay? Babe! What? Me and Dave are going hunting next Thursday down at the spot to try and kill a couple of deer.
Okay. Try not to shoot each other.
And you may be thinking, okay, why? So what? Why do I need to do this? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I think if you do, if you think about it in those terms, it will help focus your efforts on what you want to achieve. Okay, and if you are giving your mission statement to, whoever it might be, there's no doubt they know exactly what's going to happen, right? Okay, for the E part of this, for the enemy, again, for this purpose, it's our prey, right? The deer, the elk, whatever it is you're hunting. And when we assess the enemy, what we want to do is we want to break down, okay, what do we know about them? Um, there's a few things that I'll get into on this, that again will help focus your efforts. Um, the first thing is their approximate location, and I say approximate, okay, because we've gone out there, we've done our reconnaissance, we've done our scouting and everything, and we've picked up on sign and all that stuff, and so we know, we have a good idea that there are deer in this location, right? Um, and again, we do that through our scouting, um, and maybe even the use of trail cameras, if you can do that. Okay, so we have some kind of intelligence on what we're going after. We're not just going in there blind. Okay, that's something I touched on in the last episode. Is that aspect of hunting where the deer are, not where you want them to be. You may be doing your e-scouting and you look at it on the map, and that spot may have everything that you think a deer could need to survive, right? It's got cover, it's got bedding, it's got food, it's got water, it's got all of that stuff. It's secure, okay? And we go there, take a chance, and we go in there blind, without doing any scouting, and nothing shows up, right? So if we do our due diligence for ourselves and we scout, hang cameras, whatever it might be, we gather intelligence, we can narrow it down to an approximate location of where they are. The next thing for our enemy is its vulnerabilities, right? For our deer, those vulnerabilities, sight, and really that's about it for deer, right? I mean, that's probably their biggest vulnerability. We know that deer see in 2 dimension, not 3 like us, and we know that they're colorblind. So how can we exploit that? Well, for one thing, as far as 2-dimensional sight goes, for any sight for that matter, 2-dimensional, it's much more the case for that, in that an object directly in front is harder to depict what that object is, okay? And so we know that, if you've ever seen a deer that's kind of bobbing and weaving its head around, what it's trying to do is create that contrast between what it thinks it's seeing out there and pick up on what that object is. Now, if you were to approach a deer out of its peripheral, it's going to pick up on that, or if it sees something out of its peripheral, it's going to pick up on that much more than if it was looking straight on at it. Okay, and we know that to be the case for any vision, right? So we use that in our reconnaissance. If we're going around an objective and we have a static position that we're reconning, we always try to come in at a perpendicular angle on it. We come straight in on it, okay? Because we know that in that line of sight, it's harder to pick up on movement if it's directly in front of you. Okay. The other thing that we want to know about our enemy is its strengths. Okay, and for deer, biggest strength is its sense of smell, and then its hearing as well. So what are the considerations for that? Sense of smell, we know we're going to play the wind. Okay, you have to play the wind, right? All of the scent control and everything that you do. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying that is very important. Of course, we don't want to go out there smelling like we just came from the club or whatever, right? With all this cologne and perfume and whatever it might be on. We want to go in smelling clean. But the wind is our biggest adversary in that, right? In that we have to position ourselves where the wind is helping us instead of hurting us. Hearing. That's why we go through the painstaking process of silencing our gear on the approach, trying to be as quiet as we can and not bumping deer out of the location. All of those things that we're trying to do to not upset the deer's hearing and get blown out of that spot, right? Um, and okay, and then so for the next thing, as far as the enemy goes, or last thing that I'll talk about is one of the things, or a couple of things that we talk about, probable course of action being one of them. Okay, what do we expect them to do? And for this purpose, I'll talk about their movement patterns. Okay, what are its movements patterns during each time of the day, whether it's morning, midday, afternoon, and also for the time of the year? Are we hunting in pre-rut, early season, mid-season, during the rut, after the rut, late season? Um, are the deer in your area changing up their pattern of movements? Are they more likely to move in the morning? Are they more likely to move in the evening? Where are they coming from? Which direction? Okay, all of these things, and that again, that goes back to doing our due diligence, getting out there and scouting, right? Picking up on those signs. Um, and there's tons of information out there about all of this stuff that you can use, rub lines, scrape lines, this and that, and tracking them back to the bedding. That's probably the biggest thing as far as most probable course of action goes, is if we can identify the deer's bedding and its food source, we know it's going to be moving back and forth between those two. So we want to position ourselves during that or in the middle of that corridor of their movement, right? Okay. Um, Another thing that we talk about when we're talking about this stuff is what we call MDCO, or most dangerous course of action. And that could be what do we expect them to do if they see us? And of course, that is just snort, wheeze, whatever it might be, and out of the AO and not come back and not afford us the opportunity to take that shot, right? So those are all the things that go under the assessment of the enemy in there. The next one that we want to talk about is terrain. And with terrain has to be weather. Those two are inseparable. They influence each other, right? Um, how is that so? If we talk about low-lying area and we get a lot of rain in, then that area can flood. Same thing with creeks, rivers, lakes. The water is going to rise if we've had a lot of rain or anything like that. Wind, we know that the different types of terrain, hills, saddles, draws, and all of these things, when the wind goes through there, it can change the direction of the wind, right? If you've ever gotten into an area that has a bit of terrain and wind comes through there and it just begins to swirl, and it's so hard to tell where the wind is coming from, right? We can look on our whatever e-scouting platform that you might use, and it gives us a wind indication, and we get out there and it's completely opposite of what that says. That's because that terrain is breaking that wind up and making it swirl around and do something completely different than what we thought it might be doing. Okay. Um, and then how does the terrain affect, how does it affect us? Well, if we have, when we talk about terrain, we're talking about a couple of different things. The first one being natural features: rivers, lakes, hills, draws, creeks, mountains, and those kinds of things. And we talk about that terrain in for us, and how that it would impede our movement or slow our movement or cause us to go out of our way to get around it. And so that all comes into our planning of how we're going to get into, or how we're going to access that location, right? For the deer, it could be the same thing, okay? And that terrain could cause them to have a certain pattern of movement, right? One of the biggest things that I've noticed here in North Carolina is that the deer want to take the path of least resistance, right? And so you can bet that that terrain is going to influence their movement. Other considerations in there for terrain can be man-made features, right? Roads, houses, buildings, and those kinds of things, in that we have to work around either setting up in the location that we want to be or accessing that location of where we want to go. Other considerations tied into there, like I said, weather and terrain are tied together. They're inseparable. So other considerations for the wind, or for the weather, and we talk about the weather, wind, rain, the temperature, cloud cover, humidity. Um, how does all of that affect us, and how does it affect the deer? Um, I talked about this in the last episode. I've noticed here in North Carolina, the deer, if the wind is up around 15 miles an hour or more, they're not really moving that day. Um, I've picked days, I've gone out there and sat where the wind is at a steady 13, 15 miles an hour, gusting up into the 20s, and have seen no movement. And this is on multiple occasions. So that if I see a windy day on the forecast, I don't even bother going out. I'm not going to waste my time. Kind of the same thing for the rain. I've never had a lot of luck in seeing a lot of movement during the rain, and that, let me caveat that by saying it depends on how long the rain is going to last. Okay, I talked about this in the last episode of stacking conditions. That if I see rain coming in, if that rain is coming out, is moving out of here at some point in the day, midday, morning, I want to be there when that rain is moving out, because then those deer are going to get up and start moving. Okay. How else does the weather affect us? Well, temperature can affect us greatly, right? If we have a long trek getting into our spot, then you can bet we want to take water with us, because dehydration is can be a big killer, right? So we want to consider that. Here in North Carolina, man, we can have big swings in temperature. We can go from 40 degrees one day. I mean, shoot, we can go from 20 degrees in the same day, 20 degrees in the morning, and we can hit 50s or 60s in the afternoon. So if we go set up, if we have a long trek in the morning, coming out and we haven't hydrated properly, then that temperature is going to greatly affect our movement. It's the same way for the deer. When the temperature is in that upper register, they're going to be looking for those water sources. They're going to be hanging around those water sources. So we can use that to our advantage to find, fix, and finish the enemy there, right? So all things to consider. So that is terrain and weather. Again, those two are inseparable, and they highly influence each other. All right. And I'm going to get into terrain analysis of how we do that. It's a whole nother acronym, and I'm going to break that down to give you a better idea of how to do a good terrain analysis. These last ones are real quick, right? Because there's not a lot that coincides from the military aspect of this into the hunting aspect. The next one is troops. For this consideration, the troops is the hunter, right? Or if you have, if you're going out on a hunting party. But a couple of things about that. When we talk about troops, what we want to consider are the capabilities, the numbers, and the support that we have available. So capabilities. I broke this down into kind of two aspects. One being if you're hunting with a gun, and the other if you're hunting with a bow, right? Know your limitations. That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about capabilities. Know your limitations. If you know that with your gun, you are good to make that ethical shot out to whatever yardage it might be, 500, 600 yards, all right? And you really shouldn't stretch it out beyond that, then don't. Because we all want to be ethical hunters, and the worst thing we can do is wound an animal and have it out there, 2-3 days waiting to expire, or worse, just live the rest of its life with whatever wound we've given it. So know your capabilities with your equipment. Same goes with a bow. If you know that you're only good for 20, 30, 40, 50 yard shot or whatever, then don't be stretching it out. Making that a bad shot on the deer is no way to go, right? So know your capabilities. Also, going back to getting into a location, accessing that hunting location, if your fitness level isn't up to humping in all your gear, if it's a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles, whatever it might be, if your fitness level isn't up for that, then don't attempt it, especially if you're going out there alone, right? And especially if you haven't done your due diligence and told someone where you're going. If you get out there and get hurt and you're on your own, you are definitely in a bad way there, right? So know your capabilities as far as your fitness level goes as well. Okay, don't put yourself in a spot if you don't have to. Numbers. How many are in your hunting party? Are you solo? Do you have other people with you? Know that. If you are going out on a hunting party and we get back and we do a head count and we don't have everybody there, and again, we've told each other where we're going, then we know where to go look for that person. Support is another consideration for the troops or the hunter. What type of support do we have available to us? If it is allowed and we do have it to us, do we have a vehicle to help get us to help access that location? Can you drive to a certain, within a certain distance of it? Do you have a four-wheeler, a side-by-side to get you into that distance? Do you have an e-bike that you can pretty much just ride right up to it? So those kinds of things. Another aspect of support is cell service. Does your location have cell service so that if in fact you do get back there and get hurt, you can make that call? Or if you have given a time that you're going to be back and that time goes past what you said, somebody knows where to come looking for you. Um, and with today's cell phones, those locator aspects of that, it makes it a lot easier for them to come find you, right? So all considerations when we talk about the hunter or the troops that are going to be conducting this mission, break it down into capabilities, numbers, and support. Okay. All right. This is one of those that the next one you can kind of get into the weeds about. I'm going to try and keep it simple, and that is the time available. How much time do you have to conduct your hunt? If it's just you, then I guess you have as much time as you need, as much time as you want. But let's say, you got off work early and you can, you've got the opportunity to go out and hunt. Do you have enough time? And so what we use to make sure that we have enough time available to conduct this mission is it's called backwards planning, right? And so what we do is, let's take it into consideration of last light. Here in North Carolina, I've said this before, I think this is the case in most states, that we have 30 minutes after sunset that is our legal shooting light, right? So that is our no later than time, okay? We have to be finished by that time. So then we look at backwards plan from there. How long is it going to take us once we reach the spot to set up? Okay, whether we're getting in a tree stand, saddle, ground blind, whatever it might be. Okay, so we can, guess or deduce, or how long it takes you to get set up. So from that last light, backwards plan, okay, how long do I need to set up once I reach the location? How long is it going to take me to reach that location from if I have to park and walk in? How long is it going to take me to do that movement? Okay, with that, backwards plan even more. How long is it going to take me to drive from the house or work or wherever it might be to get to that parking spot? Okay, and then walking in. Okay, just use backwards planning. Assess how long it's going to take you to get from point A to point B, and how much time do you have available. Okay. And then the last one I'll talk about is civil considerations. And that can be man-made infrastructure, okay, whether that's roads, power lines, buildings, towns, whatever it might be in your hunting area. The biggest consideration is people or other hunters, right? The hunting pressure. Is it a very popular place to hunt? Do we have to worry about other hunters being in that location? Where are the other hunters in that location, so that if we are, especially if we are hunting with a gun and we're taking a shot in someone else's direction, we want to make sure that we have enough standoff that we're not going to endanger them, right? So civil considerations, other hunters in your area is something that we always need to be aware of, right? Okay, so I said that there was another acronym that we use for terrain analysis, okay? And that acronym is OCOCA. I'm old school. I still say OCOCA. I know if some of you guys, military guys that are listening to this or watching this, that's not how we say it nowadays, but I'm old school and I'm going to stick with OCOCA, and you guys know what it is. All right. So for OCOCA, that stands for observation of fields of fire, cover and concealment, obstacles, key terrain, and avenues of approach. All right. So for observation and fields of fire, the way that we do our analysis on that is condition of weather and terrain that allows, I guess the definition of observation is that's the condition of weather and terrain that allows us to see. Okay, because aspects of that, as far as weather goes, that cuts down on our visibility. Rain, fog, snow, all that stuff can cut down on our visibility, right? Terrain, the same way. Do we have hills, valleys, draws, whatever that might be blocking our visibility? Fields of fire. Fields of fire is that area that we can cover effectively, okay, whether it be with a gun or a bow, whatever it might be, okay? Both of those are based on line of sight, okay, and that is our ability to see from point A to point B. And when we talk about line of sight, there's two types of line of sight, and that's horizontal and oblique. We're only going to concern ourselves with horizontal because that is, again, that is from the point of where you are to the deer, right? Because the oblique, that is kind of talking about vertical, a vertical field of fire when we're talking about using other stuff, okay? That doesn't concern us here. Okay, so again, we're only concerning ourselves with horizontal line of sight, and again, that is from our position to the target. Okay, so that observation fields of fire, what can we see? Do we need to cut a shooting path? Do we need to prune some limbs back? Do we need to move some things out of our way to afford ourselves the ability to observe and to shoot from our location? And so with the evaluation on that, we're going to identify the engagement area, which is where they are, right? The terrain that offers that field of fire. What are the considerations for that? We're talking about hilltops, being high up in a tree in a saddle or a tree stand, or on the ground or a blind. Okay, that is what we're talking about when we're talking about fields of fire. And then other considerations for observation and fields of fire. Where are they vulnerable? Bedding and food source for the deer, right? When they're bedded down, asleep or whatever, that's going to afford us opportunity. When they're feeding, that's going to afford us an opportunity there. They're a little bit more vulnerable in those spaces. Another consideration for observation of fields of fire is what we call dead space. And that's where a space where we can't shoot. If the terrain offers the deer an ability to get out of our line of sight or out of where we can shoot, and but they might still be within range, that is dead space, okay? So all things to consider when we're setting up that location, right? We don't want to put ourselves in a location where we have a very, very narrow aspect of observation and fields of fire. All right, the next one, cover and concealment. What is the difference between the two? All right, we're only really going to concern ourselves with one of these, and that's concealment. The other one, cover, and I'll tell you the difference between the two. Cover is protection from enemy fire. It is how we explain it, right? Okay, that is something that's going to stop a bullet. Okay, concealment is something that hides us from observation. Okay, and that's the one that we're going to be concerning ourselves with. Um, what are some things that can provide concealment for us? Of course, an elevated position out of their line of sight. Um, Trees, underbrush, that can provide us front cover or back cover. Vegetation, a ground blind, whether it be natural, something that we've built up, or something that we've put up, or bought and put up in this area, right? So all things that we can use as concealment, um, camouflage, basically. That's what it is when we're talking about it. Something that's going to break up the outline of our body and obscure us from their vision. Next one, obstacles. What are we talking about? Terrain analysis for obstacles, natural or man-made. Okay, and it's just an object that disrupts our movement. We talked about it before. Rivers, lakes, swamps, dense vegetation, um, things of that nature that's going to cause us to go around an area, or at least make it more difficult to get to that access of the location we want to be at. Um, that thick vegetation, that it's not impassable, but it creates noise as we're going through there. You have to make that determination. Do you want to go around it, or do you want to go through it? What's the risk versus reward on that? Okay. Um, is it far enough out that making noise going through there is far enough out from the location that we're setting up that we're not worried about it? Or is it close enough that we're going to have to skirt around this dense vegetation to avoid making that noise and bumping deer out of the location that we want to set up? Okay. Key terrain. Key terrain is anything that gives us an advantage over them. Okay. High ground, low ground that we can conceal our movement in. Um, Benches, bedding, edges, food sources, those kinds of things can be key terrain for what we're talking about today as far as hunting goes, right? Um, again, anything that can afford us an advantage or afford them an advantage, okay? We always look at all of this stuff, us and them. What are the effects on both of us, right? So key terrain, again, anything that can give us an advantage or give them an advantage. Avenues of approach is the A in this, and this is the last one, right? What is an avenue of approach? It's that path used to get to the objective, okay? Whether that be us getting there, and we're talking about something that can ease our movement getting there. If it's a road, a trail, walking on high ground instead of the low ground where the vegetation is. Same thing for the enemy, right? Same thing for the deer. How many times have you been out in your location and there's a logging road or a path or something like that, and we've just seen tracks after tracks after tracks on there, right? Again, they're going to take that path of least resistance. So it's really mobility corridors, anything that provides ease of movement. Those are the avenues of approach that we want to consider us. It's those when we talk about funnels or pinch points, those kind of things that are going to, we call it canalize their movement to our location. Okay, those are things that we can identify as avenues of approach. Okay, all right, guys, that is it. I hope it wasn't too boring. I hope this really helps you out. Again, these are all considerations that I think, again, I'm sure that we're already doing it. We're just not, it's not a conscious effort. And that's what I want to do today is to bring this all to light and for it to be a conscious effort for you in your planning process now. This is open source information, okay? This isn't secret information. It's not even close hold. You can Google it, whatever it might be, search it on the web, METTTC, and you'll see the explanations of all this stuff out there in case you want to read about it. So again, it's open source information. Again, it's just an acronym. It's been around for as long as I've been in the military, 30 plus years, and something that we use again our planning considerations. So again, hopefully this focuses your efforts and gives you the ability for a better hunt, right? And makes you a more efficient hunter. That's what it's all about. Okay. So again, hope this wasn't too bad. Tell me what you thought. Give me some comments about it, guys. If it just wasn't your thing or whatever, hey, I've got thick skin. Bring it on. If you like it and you want to hear more content like this, let me know. Got plenty more stuff that I want to do on this. So yeah, just let me know. All right, guys. Once again, hey, thanks for tuning in to Crossed Arrows Hunting. Do the thing, like and subscribe. Tell a friend, okay? Again, hopefully this helped you out. Have a great day. Have a good hunt.